once told me he always wanted to meet President Obama and tell him, Mr. President, it's an honor to meet you, and I gotta say, I'm pretty mad at you. And Barack would ask, why are you mad at me? Jamie would reply, because you beat me to it. I wanted to be the first black president of the United States. Jamie had actually met the president once before at a campaign event back in '08. Obama had complimented Jamie's thoughtful question about educational equality. I have to tell him while he's still president, though, he told me. Why, I asked. It still makes sense once he's out of office. No, he shook his head. I want to say it to him while he's still president. This was December 2015. You don't have much time left, I told him. I meet Jamie at my college alumni happy hour. I hear someone telling me they like my glasses, and when I look over to see who it is, I nearly fall over from the pound of feels that punches me in the stomach. I don't believe in love at first sight, but I do believe in attraction and the power of white wine. After hiking up my Spanx and downing a couple of glasses of Sauv Blanc, I'm just tipsy and confident enough to ask him out. And from that night forward, we stumble into a whirlwind romance of unanswered texts. A 7-hour marathon of the Great British Bake Off, followed by days of radio silence. We stay up all night discussing James Baldwin while I bake Christmas cookies and he smokes cigarettes out of my apartment doorway, and I won't see him again for weeks. From the second he walks out my door to the second his stupid little name pops up on my home screen, I am miserable. Not only because I have a serious case of unrequited love, but because I have to tell him, to say to his face that this isn't enough for me anymore. That we're both better than Netflix and chill, and anyways, we both love politics and Twitter, so we're basically #meant to be. And because it's gnawing away at me, this need for something more tangible and real than red receipts, this unrelenting void that needs filling, a Jamie-shaped space carved out by expectation and overthinking. I'm pretty committed to the shakily held belief that if I just love him enough, but am chill about it, that he will wake up one day and realize he loves me too. The next time I see him, I'll tell him. I keep telling myself. Because as soon as I see him, I know I won't do it. Because I will have to look into his face and spill out my deep, crazy emotions all over it, and I'm so terrified that that face looking back into mine will let me know, gently, that he just doesn't feel the same way. Some Tuesday night, when we're wine drunk and pretty deep into the pastry technical challenge, Jamie brings up the fact that we only hang out when it's dark outside and have never been seen in public together. You know what, he says, one of these days, I'm going to take you to a restaurant with a waiter and silverware and cloth napkins. Damn, I say, my intestines exploding inside me. That would be a bold move for us. Cloth napkins are essential, he says. He names a real restaurant and we talk about what we're going to wear, and what does he say? I'm relieved. I don't even need to tell him. I don't need to make some grandiose declaration of love. We're leaving the house and going to a restaurant, which is basically a date, which basically means we're dating, which basically means we're going to spend the rest of our lives making each other breakfast in bed and raising our children to be political activists. I didn't know that that would be the last time I'd seen him. I didn't know that a month would go by and I wouldn't hear from him, and there would be no restaurants and no cloth napkins. I didn't know that I would start picking up little pieces of self-worth, along the way dropping pieces of life that bummed me out, including Jamie. That I would start lying to him that I was busy when he asked to come over, my best friend sending me the prayer hand emojis when I ignored a text from him like it was some kind of feminist victory. I didn't know that I would finally start standing up for myself, finally mustering up the courage to ask him for the money he owed me, nor that 7 days later he would kill himself in a bathroom. I didn't even know he did it until several months after the funeral, after hundreds of Facebook posts from friends talking about his infectious sense of humor and listing suicide hotline numbers. After a GoFundMe had been set up for his mother, the goal met, then exceeded. His death was already stale on the internet by the time I found out. I hadn't thought about him for months before learning about his death, so I didn't know that for the months following I would think about him constantly. Not him or his life or memories even, but rather I would start thinking of everything that was happening within the context of him not being here for it. Not that he was missing from the world, but just that he was missing, that he got to miss the world. It was a twisted gratitude for the pain he didn't have to feel anymore. Thank God Jamie isn't here for this, I think. And these thoughts would slip into my head whenever I opened my phone to a news alert or felt that inevitable sense of dread near post-college birthdays. I started wondering and worrying, really, that maybe he was the smart one. He didn't have to see that politicians were knowingly causing lead poisoning to children in Michigan. He didn't have to live through the Pulse Orlando shooting, the Charleston church shooting, the Las Vegas Musical Festival shooting. I could go on. He didn't have to hear sexual assault described to Billy Bush on an Access Hollywood bus. He didn't have to hear that Prince and Princess Leia died. He didn't have to deal with the fallout of Brexit or Pokemon Go. He missed Harambe and the insane stranglehold it had on our cultural identity for a while. He didn't have to watch the first Black Bachelorette pick Brian. He didn't have to know that tiki torch wielding mouth breathers had marched unironically repeating the words of Nazis. He didn't have to be alive on November 8th, 2016, or pick a day in the news cycle since then. But I started noticing other things too. There were other times when I would think, I can't believe Jamie's not allowed to see this. He didn't get to experience the visceral visual album that is Beyonce's Lemonade. He didn't get to see any more Great British Bake Off Baked Alaska challenges. He didn't get to see Moonlight literally take the best picture out of Emma Stone's hands. He didn't get to cry at Michelle Obama's When They Go Low, We Go High. He didn't get to listen to Kendrick Lamar's new album. He didn't get to see Gilmore Girls' Netflix revival, Gilmore Girls: A Year of the Life. He didn't get to hear the news that giant pandas are no longer on the endangered species list. He didn't get to contribute to the Feifei jokes, the Twitter thread think pieces. He didn't get to witness or participate in the surge of political involvement that has come out of this era. He never got to meet President Obama and tell him that he wanted to be the first Black president. He never got to know that I loved him. But even if he did, I'm not sure it would have changed anything. Because he didn't know about all the beautiful and hideous things he would miss. He didn't choose to miss these things because he was smart or wasn't smart. He was just in a kind of